subject which I'm going to discuss or talk about today is a sutta or a discourse or a sermon which we all have come across but have not actually discussed it as a sermon or as a sutta. The name of this sutta is Vyagapajya Sutta. Right? It sounds quite difficult to remember, but the meaning in this Vyagapajya Sutta is the conditions of welfare. Right? It means that people have asked about what is it that will bring us happiness? What is it that will bring us, a true kind of security in life? Well, in life, there are people who think that security comes out of material things. Well, this is true. I mean, we are all laymen, right? So we enjoy the use of material things, and we enjoy owning material things as well. For example, we have a car. The car can take us to all sorts of places, not just to temple, but to places also which gives us happiness, right? If we want to go and see a picture, right? And owning a car will take us to see a picture. So this ownership and using of these things will bring us happiness, okay? And as laymen, it is all right. It is good for us to strive, to make our lives as comfortable as possible. But on the other hand, you can find people whom a little bit is not enough. In fact, nothing is enough for them. A little bit is not enough, a lot is not enough, right? So they want more and more and more and more. So to these people, right, craving is unrestrained, meaning that no matter how much they have, right, we have come across these people in our lives. No matter how much they have, it is still not enough. They are still dissatisfied. They have no satisfaction in what they own. So they go on, right? And after that, the more they acquire, the people who don't have also feel that compared to these rich people, that they have nothing. So there is a sort of a feeling of resentment, right, among this. So there was the condition whereby this sutta was given is there was in the city of the Koliyas, right? The Koliya is are in fact the people of Princess Yasodhara, right? She was from the Koliya race. So there was one man, right, who is a Koliya, and his name was Vyagapajya. So this sutta is named after him, Vyagapajya. So he came and he approached the Buddha, and he said to the Buddha, right, Lord, we are householders, right? Meaning we are lay people, and we enjoy the use of so many material things, right? We enjoy wearing nice clothes, we enjoy using perfumes, we enjoy seeing nice things and staying in nice houses, right? But even so, right, there is a kind of insecurity in us. Can you tell us, he asked the Buddha, can you tell us, Lord, what is it, right, that will contribute to worldly progress, right, in this world and in the next world? So he wants to know what is it that can make him happy in this world and also in the next world. So this is in fact a sutta or a sermon specifically aimed at laymen, because in this sutta the Buddha discusses about material wealth, about material things. And so in this sutta you can see that Buddhism does not say that owning material wealth is bad, only that we must know, right, what is good and what is enough for us. We must have a happy medium. We also must bear in mind always what is the middle path, right, so that we don't go overboard. Our craving doesn't go about unrestrained. So he explains to us that in life, right, we need to have this material wealth. And so the first thing that contributes to our worldly progress in terms of material wealth is we must have these 4 accomplishments. The first accomplishment is the accomplishment of persistent effort. Right? This is very straightforward, very easy to understand. The accomplishment of persistent effort is that in whatever occupation, in whatever work we do, in whatever job we take up, we must have this hard-working attitude. No matter what we do, we must do it well. We must do it right. Whether we are working in an office or whether we are in a sales job, right? In whatever field we are in, right? Make sure that we do the job right, so that people know us, right? For whatever work we do, we acquire a kind of respect from these people, and also through this persistent effort, we build up our wealth. We build up this material security, so that in our lay life, we know we own these things, and we know we can use these things. So there is a kind of peace, right, when we think that we have material security. Now, when we want to practice the Dhamma, one of the things which is important in practicing Dhamma is that we must have also this material security. If we were to be poor, right, and all the time we are working just to make ends meet, to keep our life together, we would be all the time working. So if people were to work day and night, and their mind is on just surviving, working day and night just to survive, they would have no time to come and listen to the Dhamma. For example, people like you and I, right? We have work to do, and our work is enough to keep us going, right? Sometimes fortunes might not be so good, but sometimes fortunes are better, and some people are better off. But whatever we do, we have time. For example, on this Saturday evening, we can spare the time to come and listen to some Dhamma, to share in some spiritual knowledge. So this kind of material security is important. If we were to be working all the time, we would have no time for on Saturday evenings, on Sunday mornings even, to come and listen to the Dhamma. And therefore our spiritual progress, right, would then be hindered, would then be slower. Right? So we'd have no time to come and listen. And therefore, the Buddha advises us, if we work well in our jobs, if we were to work well, right, we can accumulate this material security. And that gives us a kind of a satisfaction, a kind of happiness. And after that, after we have gained this material wealth, we must have the accomplishment of watchfulness, which means that when we have this wealth, we don't let the wealth slip away. So wealth can be, as we know, can slip away quite easily. And therefore, we must take steps, right, to protect what we have from people who would steal it from us. We know there are a lot of unscrupulous people who, if you just let down your guard a little bit, they will steal things away from you. And also we must safeguard our material wealth from fire. We must safeguard our material wealth from flood and all kinds of things, right, that will rob us of this hard-earned wealth. And after that, what is important? Now we have talked about the material aspect. Now what else is important in our life is we must have good friendship. We cannot exist and just enjoy our wealth alone. You know, there are some people, for example, we hear in fairy tales, there's this king who loves his gold so much. You know, he locks himself up in his castle and he counts his coins day and night. But that is not enough for us. We need to mix with other people. Man is by nature sociable, right? And therefore, although we need to be sociable, we must find the right kind of friendship. So the most important thing that also contributes to our happiness in this world is good friendship. Now we know that if we mix with the wrong kind of people, we can also go down the path to destruction. If we mix with wrong friends who take us and advise us to do things which are not right. And therefore, if we mix with friends that are good in every aspect of our lives, these friends are called Kalyana Mitta, meaning they are really good friends. They are the ones who look after you when you are not so sure of yourself, when you might go on the wrong path. And these are friends who advise you to do good things. And therefore, we must mix with friends that have faith. For example, faith meaning faith as in saddha, faith in doing the right things. They must have this kind of faith. And after that, they must also have virtue. The friends that we mix with must also have virtue, in that they can discern. They know what is right and what is wrong. And therefore, when you mix with them also, you know what is right and what is wrong. And after that, these people must also have charity. If you mix with stingy friends all the time, say, oh come, why don't you take me out for dinner? And then you ask them, why don't you buy me a drink? Oh no, sorry, now I can't buy you a drink. I'm very, very short, very dry now. Yeah. So all the time, these kind of friends wants to leech off you. They only want what you can provide. But a true friend, right, although he takes from you, he also looks after you in giving back to you. Whenever you have not enough, he will also look after you. And after that, he must be a friend who is full of wisdom, who has some measure of wisdom, in that he can advise you on what is right, on what is good to do, and what is not good to do. He will tell you, look, this is not good. You are going to destroy yourself, or you are going to harm yourself. And therefore, he gives right advice. And therefore, as we can see, the accomplishment of good friendship in our lives is very important. Now, there are certain people, certain friends, right, in between inverted commas, who will guide us on to destruction, who will guide us on to bad ways that will bring us unhappiness, bring us sorrow. And there are four sources of this destruction. And we know that there are certain friends who will always encourage us. Right? These are not friends. They are people who will encourage us to indulge in these things. And the first one is debauchery. Well, debauchery means womanizing until they are so addicted to this kind of pleasures. Right? So we know that in business world, sometimes the people that we mix with, they expect, for you to take them out to enjoy this kind of pleasures. And therefore, the more you enjoy, the more one can get addicted. So we know of people who every now and then they will go to Thailand, they will go to certain places. They are very famous for this kind of debauched activities, right? And therefore, they also keep this kind of industries alive. So they get so addicted, right, to this kind of pleasures that sometimes they cannot even think straight. And therefore, debauchery is a very terrible means of destroying yourself. Now, the second one is drunkenness. Now, drunkenness is where we get so addicted to drinking that we become heedless. We do not know what we are doing. And therefore, we can lose all our property through being heedless. Sometimes you might think that, having a drink or two is not bad. Of course, having a drink or two is not bad. It's the third drink that is getting worse, and the fourth drink that gets even worse, and the fifth drink that leads us on to the sixth, to the seventh, and finally, we don't know what happens. There are people who argue, when you get high, right, maybe you'll be happy. Right? You forget the sorrows of the world. Now, there is this story. There was this monk, right, who was once kidnapped by a robber. So he says to this monk, holy man, I will give you 3 choices. Number 1, I want you to break your vows of celibacy. That is, he wants him to go and sleep with a woman. Right? The second one, I want you to go and kill somebody. And the third choice he gave to this monk is, I want you to drink all the drink that he has in this bottle. So the monk thought, number 1 is terrible, I can't do this, Number 2 is even worse, I go and kill people. Number 3, he sees that this bottle, maybe he can drink it, and after that, be alright. So he drank it, and he got drunk. And after getting drunk, he committed the first one and the second one. Right? So the point is, when we are heedless, we cannot protect ourselves. There have been cases I've heard of people who drink so much that they end up falling into the drain, and people, their relatives, have got to pull them out of these drains. So this is a form of destruction. Third one is gambling. We know gambling too well. right? We know that fortunes can be lost by just the turn of the dice. And there are people who are so addicted to gambling, they cannot give it up. We know that in Genting Highlands, people go up millionaires, and they come down without even money to pay for the taxi fare. And we know of these things. These are things that are true. Right? So the fourth one is friendship or intimacy with evildoers. The company that we keep is very important. Right? That's why we say, to be really happy in our worldly life, we need good friends. For we know that friends who are bad, friends who are always thinking about wrong things, will also influence us later. So it's very important. Even though we were to start off good, later on, if all the time people around us keep telling us, oh, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, eventually we also start thinking, oh, everybody is doing it, right? Why don't I do it as well? And therefore, you follow. So we have known of cases that criminals, hardened criminals, when they first start, they are very innocent. And maybe they mix with the wrong company. And therefore, in the life of crime, they cannot turn back. Once they start killing or they start stealing, they cannot turn back. They have to go on and on and on. And therefore, these are the four sources of destruction which we must watch out for. And then, the fourth condition for worldly progress is the accomplishment of well-balanced livelihood. So this means that whatever we earn in our occupation, in our job, we must not spend more than what we earn. Now there are some cases of people who spend more than what they can earn because they think, oh, let's have a good time. Money I can always find. And the more they spend than they have, the more they get into debt. Right? They may owe this person, owe that person, right? And finally, they will have to sell off whatever they earn, they own. And therefore, this is another form of self-destruction. They like to spend. We know of people who are generous, It's fine, it's good to be generous. But we must also have some measure of wisdom in us, knowing how much to spend, how much to be generous, so that we can look after ourselves and look after others as well. And so these are the four conditions of worldly progress. That means these are the four conditions that will look after us in this world as far as worldly happiness is concerned. And after that, the Buddha proceeds to explain to Vyagapajja the conditions for spiritual progress. Right? So after worldly progress or material progress, the Buddha explains spiritual progress. That is, what he must do to safeguard himself in lives to come. In this life, he is given advice. So you follow this advice, you'll be okay. But now we talk about spiritual progress. There is also this saying in that if you want to do business, if you want to be successful in business, sometimes in business you have to be ruthless. You have to do whatever you can in order to earn that money. And so the saying is, if you want to do business, think that you will live forever. So that when death comes, so you think that death will never come to you. So that when the coming of death itself sometimes brings fear to people in that they change. Okay? So if you want to do business, the saying is, think that death will never come to you. You will always live forever. So whatever you do, no matter how much you cheat, no matter how much you bluff, right, you will never face this death, so you don't have to be afraid. So this is as the saying goes. But if you want to be a religious person, if you want to be a holy person, think that death will come tomorrow. So that no time left for you to practice. You must practice now. You must change now. So that when death catches you tomorrow, you at least will have accomplished something, and therefore you can go in peace. So this is the thing which we must keep in mind. If we were to think that, oh, tomorrow or in a few days' time I'm going to die, right? People in their right minds will always try to change to religion, so that when death finally takes them, they have some measure of peace in their mind. They don't die, thinking, oh, what else have I got to do? So in moments like this, people usually change to religion. And therefore now, the conditions for spiritual progress, that is what they must do to safeguard themselves in the future. The first one is the accomplishment of faith. Right? So now you can see it's well balanced. You can have the conditions of progress in material way, and now the conditions for progress in the spiritual way. The first one is, as I said, the accomplishment of faith. And this faith is also given the name Saddha. That is faith in the triple gem, the faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. That is, we understand the nature of the Buddha. We understand the nature of what he teaches. And we also understand the nature of the people who are putting into practice wholeheartedly his teachings. And understanding this, faith arises. The Saddha, the confidence arises in that whatever we have heard, whatever we know is the Buddha's teachings is definitely true. Sometimes this can be only arrived at if we were to be quiet, if we were to be mindful. And therefore, with this mindfulness, we can see the clarity, we can have the insight as to what is actually the teachings of the Buddha. To most of us now, what we know is Buddhism is book knowledge or knowledge from hearing. What is important as a step higher than this is knowledge that comes from intuition, knowledge that comes from within. And this can be only arrived at if you do insight meditation. This is knowledge that comes to you, not that you have heard it, not that you have read it, but because you have experienced it. And when you have experienced it, you know that what the Buddha taught is definitely true. Right? If we just attach to our convictions, to our beliefs, because we have heard it or we have read it, tomorrow somebody can come to you and speak very nice words, speak very eloquently and change your mind. But if you have experienced the truth, if you have experienced what the Buddha taught, so as much as tomorrow the sun will come up, your mind cannot be changed because you know it is the truth. And therefore, and in understanding the nature of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, faith arises in this person. And therefore, there is a happiness, there is a security in that no matter what happens in life, he has something to lean back on. There is a definite point, there is a truth in life for him to fall back on. If he faces difficulties, if he faces all kinds of sorrow, and sadness, in times like this, he has somebody or something that he can call a friend, something that will back him up in these kinds of, in these times. The second accomplishment is the one of virtue, right? In that we know what are the 5 precepts. The basic Dhamma that we can practice is the 5 precepts. In that we must keep away from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and taking of intoxicants. Okay, so this is virtue. Virtue is the base from which we start our religious life. And after that is the accomplishment of charity. If we are to be stingy in this world, right, our spiritual progress will go nowhere. If we were to hang on to our material things, our material wealth, we would not go anywhere. Because later we would have to let go not just the material wealth, but we will also have to let go our previous concepts. So if we start letting go a little bit now, we give a little bit of money away, give a few things away, give of even our time away. Later on, when we have to give up certain wrong ideas that we have, it becomes easier. Right? So giving up, charity. And the fourth one is the accomplishment of wisdom. And this is, as I said, wisdom in seeing things as they really are. Once we have these 4 accomplishments, our spiritual progress is assured. If we were to really follow, these 4 advices or these 4 accomplishments, our spiritual progress is assured. And in the next life, we can be sure that we won't go far wrong. Our life will not go too far wrong. Always we will have the opportunity to come back into the right path. Okay? And therefore, these 8 conditions are the conditions for progress in this world and the next. And therefore, as laymen, we have to know how to balance this. Because sometimes we think that we have to follow exactly what the Buddha taught, and therefore it gives rise to certain difficulties. If we were to lead the life of a monk and still go to work and be a layman, we would have a lot of difficulties. And therefore we must know how to balance it. Right? A lot of the time people think that material wealth is enough, but eventually we know that when it comes down to the end, when we face the end, we also need some kind of spiritual progress, something spiritual to fall back on, something religious to fall back on. And therefore these four accomplishments are very important in our life. And therefore, in being laymen, right, we must also bear in mind that spiritual progress is very important. So this is just a very straightforward sutta given to a layman for us all as laymen here to follow. So I thank you in sharing and listening to me tonight.
So for the next item, we will invite Sister Silva again for the stanzas from the Dhammapada, page 6.
It is good to tame the mind, which is difficult to hold in, and variety. Rushing wherever it listeth, a tamed mind brings happiness.
Let the lines and guide his thoughts, for they are difficult to perceive, very hard to, and they rush wherever it is. Thoughts well guided will bring happiness.
If a man's faith is unsteady, if he does not know the true law, if his peace of mind is troubled, his knowledge will never be perfect.
If a man's thoughts are not disciplined, if his mind is not perfect, if he has ceased to think of evil, then there is no fear for him what is fortune.
Like a beautiful flower, full of color, but without scent, are the fine but fruitless words of him who does not act accordingly.
Like a beautiful flower, full of color and full of scent, are the fine and fruitful words of him who acts accordingly.
If you see a man who shows you what is to be avoided, who administers reproofs and is intelligent, follow that wise man as you would one who tells of hidden treasures.
Let him admonish, let him teach, let him advise what is right. He will be developed by the good, by that he will be disliked.
As a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, wise people falter not amidst blame and praise.
Wise people, after they have listened to the law, become serene and at ease, smooth and still live.
Few are there among men who arrive at the other shore. The other people run up and down the shore.
Those who follow the law will pass over the dominion of death, however difficult to cross.
He who has no wound on his hand may touch poison with his hand. Poison does not affect one who has no wound, nor is there evil for one who does not commit evil.
If a man offended a harmless, pure, and innocent person, the evil falls back on him like dust thrown up against the wind.
Let no one forget his own duty for the sake of another's, however great. Let a man, after he has discerned his own duty, be always attentive to his duty.
I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the teaching for guidance. I go to the brotherhood for guidance.
Thank you.
So now we will go on to the next item, more peace to come. We will have reflections on Metta Bhavana, and this will be conducted by Brother Siang Chai.
Okay, brothers and sisters, this is a time for us to really be at peace with ourselves. So what we are going to do is to radiate metta, which is loving kindness, to ourselves as well as to the people gathered here today, and reaching out as far as we can, right, into and radiate these thoughts of loving kindness without exception to all beings. Yeah. This is a very pure state of mind, and it brings a lot of happiness if we were to practice this metta as often as we get the chance to.